Welcome to the expert session on a startup and its legal and ethical issues. We'll see what a startup means. The term startup refers to a company in the first stages of its operations. Startups are founded by one or more entrepreneurs who want to develop a product or service for which they believe there is demand in the market. These companies generally start with high cost and limited revenue, which is why they look for capital from a variety of sources such as venture capitalists, angel investors. Just for timing or just to understand who a venture capitalist is. A venture capitalist is an investor that provides young companies with capital in exchange for equity. So just to put some well-known venture capitalists includes Jim Bayer, an early investor in Facebook, and Peter Fenton, an investor in Twitter. Now we try to understand still more better or in more detail understanding the startups. Startups are companies or ventures that are focused on a single product or service that the founders want to bring to the market. These companies typically don't have any full developed business model, and more crucially, they lack adequate capital to move on to the next phase of the business. Most of these companies are initially funded by their founders. For example, boat company is being started by Aman Gupta and it is being funded by their families and friends. Many startups turn to others for more funding, including families, friends, and venture capitalists. Now, I would like to bring Silicon Valley, which is known for its strong venture capitalist community and is a popular destination for startups, but is also widely considered the most demanding arena. Startups can use seed capital to invest in research and to develop their business plans. Market research helps to determine the demand for the product or services, while a comprehensive business plan outlines the company's mission statement, vision, goals, as well as the management and the marketing strategies that are required for the startup. How do you start a startup company? The first step in starting a startup is having a great idea. From there, market research is the next step to determine how feasible the idea is and what the current marketplace looks like for the idea that is being generated. After the market research, creating a business plan that outlines your company structure, goals, vision, values, and objectives is the next step. One of the most important steps is obtaining the funding. This can come from savings, friends, families, investors, loan, etc. After raising funds, make sure you have done all the correct legal paperwork. This means registering your business and obtaining the required license or permits to start up the startup. After this, establish a business location. From there, create an advertisement plan to attract customers, establishing a customer base and adapt as your business grows. So, startups are faced by the following legal issues. Issues with licensing and permits. To ensure the smooth functioning of their business, license and permits must be obtained by the startups. These requirements of license and permits differ with each business and according to the local laws in which such business is being operated. Mainly registration certificates, GST registrations, FSSAI license, import export codes, and other license are required by the business. Certain goods and services such as alcohol, guns, drugs, electricity and human organs require license and permits in their dealings. The absence of such license and permits may result in criminal charges against the businessman as well as the closing of the startup or the business. Marketing and advertisement is also one of the legal issues where we need to follow certain licensing and legal issues. One of the most effective ways for business to increase their revenue and earn more profit is through marketing and advertising. But such advertisements must also not include false claims and information about their products and services. Further, there are some categories of products, the advertisements of which are banned. For example, the Tobacco Prohibition Act outlaws all tobacco and tobacco products advertising with a direct or indirect in all media. In the same way, the Food Safety and Standard Act of 2006 prohibits the advertising of infant formula in order to encourage breastfeeding of infants. In the same way, the Parental Diagnostic Techniques Act of 1994, alcohol or alcoholic beverages under the Cable Television Network Rules of 1994, and Parental Sex Determination Services under the Parental Diagnostic Techniques Act of 1994. So these are to be compulsory followed, and we need to get the license and the permits when we go for advertising and marketing of what we can see the product that we would like to get into the market. Next, zonal laws concerning the infrastructure. I hope so. For every startup, infrastructure is a must. So the basic infrastructure that every business needs is the allocation of land for the operation of their business. Such land is required for the purpose of constructing business offices, warehouse, service centers, and many other purposes. It is important for startups to be aware of the local laws before making any commercial use of the agricultural land or the property of schools or hospitals. Since land comes under the control of the state in India, the law regarding the allocation of land varies from state to state according to their own zonal laws. So such concern, such land, what we can say, dealing should be done in a way that should not create any problem for the startup. Next, privacy and data protection concern. In the world of digitalization, all the startups used to prefer a digital mode of operating their business. The problems which a business face with that digitalization is the storage and the use of personal information of the users. Such information is obtained by the business as soon as the user accesses the website or the app that we provide. So this results in the potential risk of violation of privacy of the users. So this should also be taken into consideration when we go for the usage of the data of the customers. The business are required not to access any sensitive information of the users without the permission of the customer. Territorious liabilities in the contract management. So a startup in the operation of a business undergoes many contracts with its employees, suppliers, buyers, and co-founders. To avoid any future dispute, it is important for startups to formulate a well-written and accurate contract among themselves so that it could not create any mess or territorious differences between them when they go further in the business. However, if the startup fails to comply with the terms and conditions of the contract or does anything contrary to the contract, it will result in the territorious liability on the part of the startup. So it's better to maintain all the legal adjustments or returns should be done in a well written format between the employers, suppliers, buyers, co-founders, or with anyone we are doing the business in a written form. That will help us in maintaining a good communication system till the business goes on. It doesn't affect what we can say the startup or the business. Now we'll see the ethical issues. The purpose of a startup is to earn profit, but while earning profits, ethics should not be ignored. The startups should compel the laws and regulations. At the same time, it should not forget their duty towards the community, people, customers, and the company. Now we'll see the duty towards the customers. The startup should not indulge in any kind of activity which may be detrimental to the interest of the customers. The startup should not accept the feedback form from the customers and should not take care of their after sales services and assist the customers. A startup can grow only with the help of satisfied and happy customers. This for sure. This ethical value should be followed in order to get a good customer base for us, in order to grow our startup and make it into a larger business. Next, duty towards the employees. I hope so. Employees are the more important factor in a startup. So the employees for a startup are as important as the wheels of a car. Be it maybe a small or a big employee, everyone's contribution is necessary for the proper growth and functioning of a startup. The startup should be legal as well as ethical, give reward to the rights of the employees. They should be given proper treatment, timely payment of salary and allowances. The startup should have a proper system for hearing the grievances of its employees, and it should not try to keep its employees motivated in order to maintain healthy growth of the startup. So employees plays a vital role. So employees always should be motivated so that they could work further in uplifting or in upbringing the startup or improving what we can say the startup in the coming days. Duty towards the environment. The startup should be careful that they obtain all the legal certificates, permits from the government bodies, and they should not involve in any activity which may have a negative impact on the environment. This is very, very important nowadays. Duty towards the startup. The employees in the startup should prioritize the interest of the startup rather than their personal interest. All the employees should work together for the growth of the startup. It's very, very important one that our motive, our aim is to work on the mission, vision of the startup. So here we are going to see the employees are the one who works for what we can say towards the startup. So they should be given the prioritize. So our main important thing is look towards the startup. Duty towards the community. The startup should be careful that they should not in any manner cause harm to the sentiments of the people, and they must follow a proper pathway for the betterment of the society by keeping provisions of investing in social causes like education, food, environment. Startups should be careful about the religious sentiments of the people, especially while advertising. Issues with the respect to the labor laws. It would be wise for a startup or any other company to be well versed with the labor laws and the local laws, because when we are hiring some person to work for us, then we have several legal as well as ethical responsibilities towards that person, as there are several status which protect the rights of the laborers with the respect to the working hours, harassment at the workplace, payment of wages, payment of bonus, etc. I would like to present before you the initiatives that are being taken by the government in order to promote the growth of what we can say the startups in India. Many schemes and programs were launched by the government, and I would like to put before you some of the schemes. Startup India initiative, with the intent of cutting the government regulations and red tapeism, a 3-year tax and compliance is being provided under this initiative. Mudra Yojana. The Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana was launched in 2015 with the aim of granting loans to startups. The loans was provided with a maximum of 10 lakh rupees. SETU, SETU, Self-Employment and Talent Utilization Fund. Government has allotted rupees 1000 crores in order to create opportunities for self-employment and new jobs, mainly in technology-driven domains. eBiz portal. In 2013, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry launched eBiz portal. It was India's first government to business portal that integrates 14 regulatory permissions and license at one source to enable faster clearance and improve the ease of doing business in India. Royalty tax. Indian government has reduced the royalty tax paid by the businesses and startup firms from 25% to 10%. Credit Guarantee Fund Trust. The government of India has started a program to provide collateral-free lending to the micro and small firm sectors. Both current and new businesses are eligible for coverage under the scheme. Funds for Startups, that is FFC. Small Industries Development Bank of India, that is SEDBI, developed a 10,000 rupees corpus fund to support startups in accordance with the Startup India Action Plan. These are some initiatives that have been taken by the government in order to promote, in order to help for the growth of the startups in India. So the conclusion points, please. India is currently witnessing a wave of startups. The number of startups is increasing in the country. According to the Department for Provision of Industries and Internal Trade, at present, India has 61,400 recognized startups. The increased number of startups not only helping economic growth of the country, but also acts as a source for foreign direct investment, and also helps in creating more employment opportunities. Though these startups provide various benefits to the country, they also face various legal challenges like licensing, advertising, data protection, intellectual property rights, copyrights, patents, etc. The government has started various initiatives to promote the growth of startups in the country. I would like to present the present startup ecosystem in India with the key highlights before you. So we can see that 57,000 startups launched till date, and almost this number has been increased by the date that I am presenting the session. Maybe still more startups have been included for that. Next we can see $131 billion of total capital raised by Indian startups between 2014 and 2022, and almost all 450 billion plus combined valuation of Indian startups has been created till now. And you can see that by 2025, almost all 250 unicorns are going to be done in India, so which is going to help to increase the startup range in India. So this is the information regarding our session regarding the startup and its legal and ethical issues.